Nai nai con la vida, vida de la baila, cura con la guaira, limpia limpia taita, vibrando con la hualca.
Hello, Kani. Welcome to Ayahuasca in Colombia podcast. No, actually, that's not our name. Ayahuasca podcast.
Lawara podcast.
No, it's actually Ayahuasca podcast. I recently got the domain ayahuasca
You
podcast.
registered it. Amazing.
Yeah, and we will be, if you give us time, the ayahuasca podcast that everyone will go to. But as of now, we are at our humble beginnings, just having faith and growing and expanding. So Kani is coming live to us from India.
I am,
Which city?
yeah.
Which part?
I'm in a place called Lucknow, which is towards the north of India. So close to Delhi. It's a capital city, very city-like, nothing like where you are.
Why does it look like I'm in India and you're in Colombia? Because I have this big mandala from India behind me.
Yeah.
Uh,
You should
so
definitely
Kani, you came to our retreat in September, right? And we had some very fun conversations regarding the parallels that both you and me were noticing in the Eastern tradition, Eastern spirituality tradition, and the Amazonian plant medicine tradition. And so that's what this episode will be about. We'll talk about from the perspective of Kani about what she knows about Eastern spirituality, and she knows a lot. She's very smart. And I'll talk about the very limited amount of information I have on Amazonian tradition, and we see how it goes.
Okay,
Ready,
let's do it. I mean, right off the bat, I'm no expert. Okay, so I'm rediscovering my own roots and my spirituality myself. So I've lived in the UK for the best part of my life. We weren't particularly religious or spiritual growing up. So this is just me kind of reading and rediscovering stuff. And so if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. Very happy for that, for any of your audience members. But yeah, I'll try and like see what we've got.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Kanye, thanks for being humble. We should be humble. And if anything, guys, you can comment on the live stream and we'll reply.
Are you
So
watching the live stream? So you'll tell us.
yeah, I need
Yeah.
to figure out how to do it, because when I open it, it starts to make a lot of noise. Yeah, I figured it out. So Kani, you're in India, I'm here in South America. It's perfect for us to, like, you can feel that energy there and I can feel that energy here. So first question will be, it seems that like those two cultures, they seem to go both hand in hand, like one seemed to sort of complement the other and reinforce each other. Like, for example, at our retreats, we really like to start with a bit of meditation before the ceremony so people can get connected, and it really helps with their plant medicine experience. And then we like to do yoga because it also helps. Like, what do you think they're so complementary?
I think they're trying to work on the same system, right? The human body, the human spirit and mind. So absolutely, one tradition evolved to use plant medicines to work on these systems, and another has developed other strategies. And so there's all the parallels of working with these systems. And I think from what I experienced at the retreat, a lot of what you guys, or the experience, felt very similar to what we kind of call tantra. So tantra has been like, the term has been bastardized, I think, in the West to associate it with sexuality and whatever. That's not what tantra is. Tantra is basically using energy for spiritual growth. And so I felt that that's what we were doing with the plant. So Taita works a lot with energy, as you will tell us a bit more about, hopefully. But that's what we felt, that healing was happening at that energy body level. And there's, of course, a lot of like physical purging that happens as well. There's a lot of like Indian tradition. There's a whole system of how to heal with purging, and there's a whole ceremony kind of called panchakarma as part of Ayurveda, which is like the Indian medicine system. And that involves taking purgatives and like releasing, and they often say that a lot of emotion will be released during this time. And so these systems seem to have a lot of parallels in that way.
Yeah, 100%. Because like if you go to the jungle and you say, I have this disease, I have that disease, the prescription is almost always gonna include some kind of purge, and some of them are very tough, like hours of vomiting, and it feels like what's the connection, right? But if you do it, strangely enough, it helps. And then yeah, a lot of purging, and the way Taita explains it, for those who don't know, Taita is a Colombian name for shaman in their language. He explains that the energies leave you together with the vomit, and sometimes during the ceremony, for example, drinking ayahuasca, because it also has a purge part to it, you start feeling an emotion, or a memory comes up, and it sort of
swirls
rolls around
around.
your and kind of like, and makes you nauseous, and then comes out together with the purge, and it's like, how do you explain that?
Absolutely. So there are other parallels in Ayurveda, in our systems as well, which make use of the purging. And I think that's quite a key component to both like ayahuasca. I think the purge, it's called la purga, right? I think that's a huge part of it, and still have to figure out what that is and why, but it seems to be a key component of all of it.
Were psychedelics ever used in Eastern spirituality? Have you read anything about it yourself?
So my understanding was very limited until we had that conversation. So for me, I know that substances are used. So Shiva is one of the three sort of entities that we worship, the key ones. He's like known as the destroyer, and he has a lot of like stories. He's supposed to be constantly intoxicated, and that's the state he is in at all times. There's a whole tradition of using, I don't know if you know the dura. They're the fruit and the flower that's supposed to have hallucinogenic properties, and that's sort of often given to him as a presentation to like ask for his blessings, that sort of thing. So that's still used by certain ascetic like sadhus and stuff in India, aghoris and stuff like that, to like bring about states and spiritual awakening. So that's actually part of, so I knew about that. And marijuana is used quite a bit actually as well, and in sort of relation to Shiva, the festivals that are associated with him. Normal people just like get high on on what we call bhang, which is like the milk concoction of marijuana. But I didn't know until you mentioned the Soma story. So I looked it up actually, and it's super interesting. So it's for me, Soma was always like either the moon god, or like it's supposed to be like something that washes over you, like a plasma, like a brain fluid plasma sort of thing. But when you look into it, there's a whole chapter in the Rig Veda, which is like 1500 BC, that like talks about methods of thinning the veils between the waking state of consciousness and sort of deeper transcendent layers, and the ways to do that. And so mantras are one of them, and kind of tapas, which is the meditation, the arduous yoga and all of that to get into that state, is another. But they also mention something called aushadhi, which is supposed to be herbs, and light-filled herbs, and herbs that like bring light. And so there's a whole like chapter, the ninth mandala, which describes like the preparation of it and what it like, what sort of thing it's like. And it seems like it was suggested either it's a psychedelic mushroom, or it's something very similar to like a brew to ayahuasca. So like you use the stalk of this plant, whatever this plant is, and no one's actually managed to recognize what the plant is yet. Maybe it's lost, maybe because the sort of methods existed further up in the Himalayas. It's supposed to be a mountainous plant. And to use this, the stalk, which is, I think ayahuasca used the vine, right? And then it's described as a climbing plant, which I think is similar to, and then you kind of like crush that and like it's bitter and fermented and it filters through you. So it's
Sounds like
basically
ayahuasca to
the
me. Yeah.
same, right? Like
You
the
know,
descriptions.
I'm not a scholar. I don't know much about it, but from what you just said, I have a theory, right?
Yeah.
There is a MAOI MAOI inhibitors that are contained in the vine itself. They activate. They allow you to make DMT orally active, but they also make other psychedelics like mushrooms be more powerful. So for example, there's this concept of psilohuasca, like psilocybin, ayahuasca, basically, and mixing those two. So what if it was something like that, like MAOI from that vine, and it occurs in nature in other plants, like I know there's an acacia that's a DMT, like there's many plants that have those compounds. It's and they grow in different parts of the world. Maybe there was or still is a plant like that, and somebody just figured it out and they were doing something very similar. So yeah, that's another parallel, right? The psychedelics, because I think that Eastern tradition now is largely associated with meditation and like sort of self-work, just stuff coming from your own body. But I think that people who wrote all this literature and who became that enlightened definitely had the help from some kind of psychedelic, because the difference in, for example, tradition here in the Amazon in South America is that they don't seem to have that many scriptures surviving. Like I'm sure they had it, because to have that amount of knowledge and not have it, you see those ancient temples that are very similar, talking about parallels, right? One of them would be psychedelics. Another one of them, as we spoke, purges. Another one would be megalithic structures. You have a lot of them in India as well. They have a lot of them here. So these cultures, they seem to have coexisted, and they seem to have such a level of advancement that I would be really surprised if they did not communicate to one another, but that's
completely different
that's a
continents,
totally
right?
different,
Across the world.
it's a totally different topic, huge in itself, but
Yeah.
really
I
makes
think
you
so cultures that are born out of the land, right? Like your relationship with the land, and your relationship with your natural environment, I feel like they're all gonna evolve in generally the same direction. So even if it is across the globe, like there's going to be some what we call morphic resonance, right, across the globe, of like creatures of the same type evolving at the same, because the consciousness is evolving at the same kind of level, and so you will see parallels across. There's like a lot of data around morphic resonance as well, which is super interesting. But
when you drink ayahuasca or even other psychedelics, one of the first revelations, or as we call them, universal truths, is that we're all connected. So and you do feel other people, not only people, other life forms, but I'm sure that in that collective unconscious somewhere there, they were, even if they were not physically connected, taking boats or something like that, they were definitely connected in some other ways, because the amount of similarities is just there's too many, and we're just touching on it. Let's talk about the other one, right? What is the significance of serpent in the Eastern tradition? Because when you drink ayahuasca, it's largely known as there is a serpent energy to it. Like sometimes you even your body sort of moves like a serpent, and they say because it's a vine is a serpent in a way. And but what about Eastern tradition? Honestly, I know nothing about it.
So for some reason the serpent is connected to spirituality because it's everywhere. So in our symbology, in our like myths, there's always stories around like snakes being present either as a kind of vehicle for the god, or for example, Shiva wears a snake around his neck as a very common symbol. And I think it's a lot to do with, we can come to it, but Kundalini energy is considered a serpent energy that sits at the base of your spine. And it's a dormant energy that doesn't do anything unless you try and activate it and try and clear the channels of energy that like ascend to through all your 7 chakras up to the top of your head, right? So it's got that kind of quality to it. And there's 2 channels that are present that like twirl around each other, called the Ida and Pingala. Those are the 2 like sun and moon channels that exist, and like when they cross, that's where each of the chakras are. And so like that's the kind of like symbology that exists. And the divine thing is the fact that ayahuasca looks like intertwining serpents. Super interesting, because there's like a myth, we call it a myth, or you can call it like whatever, but that the thing, so herbologists say this, that the thing that's supposed to affect that particular organ looks a lot like that organ. So for example, walnuts like look a lot like the brain. It's super helpful for like brain development. There's like not getting like ginger apparently looks a lot like a stomach, or like your intestines or whatever. Avocados are really good for women's health, and it looks like the womb, with the little the seed in the middle. So the fact that ayahuasca, the vine, looks so much like that channel system, I feel like it has some sort of energy effect. I don't know what that is. I'm still trying to figure it out, but like something on that channel. So that's the parallel that I saw quite like immediately. I mean, and the other one obviously is that why is it making an appearance in all the visions and stuff? And I think there is something there.
Interesting. When you drink ayahuasca, there's this moment, at least it's a bit of a kind of realm place, but where you go, and it seems to be filled by bodies of snakes with patterns on them, kind of like, yeah, have you been there?
What is that?
Yeah. And it seems like they're sort of like grinding against each other, and you're sort of in the middle of it with like a buzzing sort of sounds. And it seems to be like an ego grinder you go through, and then when you come on the other side and you start recollecting your ego, you kind of create a better version, and then you feel really good. But it's a painful experience. It's really like you feel being ground up. And
oh my God.
Another
Thank
thing you mentioned.
This is what I experienced. I could not describe it for the life of me. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It connected. Yes, sometimes in our word circles, I hear somebody describe something, and I'm like, yeah, I've been there. and a lot of things are.
And you feel
recurring.
like you're trapped in it. So like I felt really immobile, like I could not move when I'm in that sort of state, and I felt like the whole thing is like just around me. Does that make sense? Like you're being squashed by the snake, but not really.
Absolutely, being ground up. And you mentioned chakras, right? And I remember that was what sparked our conversation at the retreat. I noticed when Taita goes and does the cleaning, he goes and uses the floral water to make crosses on where your chakras supposed to be. And I was like, I know he does not. I mean, not that he's illiterate or doesn't know much, but I know for sure he's not reading books on Eastern traditions or reads anything at all. He just lives in the jungle and cooks the medicine, right? He's just really connected to that, but somehow he consciously or unconsciously knows where the chakras are, because he goes and puts crosses from that plant right on all the chakras, obviously without touching inappropriate parts, but yes. It's like,
I mean, he can see the energy, right? Like that's what I think is happening. They can visually, like, how people can read auras or whatever. Like I feel like you can probably see people's, like there is a particular spiritual guru that I follow, and he's done a whole thing where he's like sat with somebody, like felt things, and then he just draws like, oh, this particular chakra is a bit strong for you, this one isn't so strong, and like he just like notes all these things. I'm guessing it's possible to read and sense these things, and we just don't have like the perception for it. But he obviously does, having worked with plants for a long time and being like in this tradition for his entire like several generations.
Yeah, I'm sure he does not know what even the word chakra means,
No,
but I think he knows what it really means more than any of
any of
us. Yeah,
that.
it's pretty,
Absolutely.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Are there any medicine systems like spiritual methods in Eastern spirituality similar to indigenous medicine and shamanism here in Amazon?
So I think shamanism has existed everywhere. So Taoists in kind of the Zen Chinese traditions, or shamans, there's like shamanistic branches to all traditions, I feel. And those are like the ones that are super close to nature. I think and like we were saying before, like any kind of culture system that's evolved from living with and in tandem with nature, understanding it's like subtle, being sensitive to it and everything. I think that they develop these systems. I think so the way I was talking about Ayurveda, I think Ayurveda has a big sort of, all of our traditions were oral traditions, right, for the longest time, and then we managed to write them down. And I think that's the difference, that you were saying, that we, indigenous cultures, we haven't quite scribed them down, or like, I think knowledge is passed down, but by oral tradition. So whether it's like, depending on how the tribe is doing, the lineages, whether it's lost or it's retained, whereas we've kind of managed to like put a lot down on paper, it seems. So I think Ayurveda has a lot of like, again, obviously it's all about local herbs and local plants, and what exists here may not exist over there. And so but like the Panchkarma procedure is like a 21-day kind of ceremony where you first drink lots of oils to try and like, so we have this cow-based oil called ghee. I don't know if you've come across ghee before, but it's like
It's clarified butter.
Exactly, but purified, and like the essence of what the milk product is, and you kind of just like drink lots of it, and it seems really unhealthy, but the idea is it like captures a lot of the toxins in the body and transfers them to the gut, and then the idea is to purge those things. So it's like, then you take purgatives to try and like vomit those things out. Virechana and Vamana are the two techniques, and I'm actually studying a little bit of that as well, so it's super interesting. But you kind of then try and purge it all out, and it's like 2-3 hours of purging. You feel like you've like literally taken your intestines out, similar to ayahuasca, to be honest. And then that's supposed to,
this procedure is called
Panchakarma. Pancha mean 5, so 5 procedures.
It's funny because a couple of days ago we were at the retreat, and Steffi's my wife's mom. She had some gut issues, so she went to Taita to complain. And guess what? He gave her? He gave her half a glass of olive oil and the purgative.
Oh wow! There you go.
So yeah, they definitely seem to be reading same books, in some library somewhere.
And then the other thing, so I think ayahuasca, what it again did for me, and then for a lot of everyone pretty much that I met at the retreat, was a lot of emotional release, right? And like trying to like release a lot of body-based tensions that exist in different parts. And I think we trap a lot of our emotions in our bodies, and these methods are ways to release all of that energy. And so there's another one called Vipassana, which is a meditation technique where the idea is to get closer, like develop, it's like a 10-day thing. The first retreat is like a 10-day silent retreat, where you kind of like hone in on your skills of really uh, uh, experiencing your sensations in your body. And so as you do that kind of body scan, you realize where those blocks are, and slowly as you see them for what they are, so just face the pain as it is in ayahuasca, it all releases. There's a lot of like emotional release in these retreats as well. I've been to one, a lot of wailing, crying, etc., and like all of that comes out. And so I think very similarly, this is another thing that I've come across, which is very, very similar. And obviously, like the practice of Tantra is done in different ways in all of our traditions. And there's a lot of like priests and medicine men. So obviously, it's really difficult in India to find like true ones because there's so many fake ones. I'm guessing it's very similar out there.
It's also difficult here because for every real title, you have 20 fake ones, which is
oh my God. Yeah. But they have very similar. So the experience of me sitting over there and what Taita was doing with La Wire, you know, the leaves and the kind of like spraying ayahuasca and all of that, like it felt very similar to what we call like charred folk and like these like, there we go, one of those. Absolutely. Yeah. So we use like peacock feathers, a lot of like sort of priests who do this stuff, and like you call them in the house when there's like bad energies and they're supposed to like whack those bad energies out of you.
Titus do the same thing. We actually had Gonzalo come over. He brought the Waira and the tobacco and some special sprays and just walked around and you know, using the smoke. And it seems to have something to do with plants or feathers as well. In North American tradition, they also use feathers to basically kind of like move something around, sort of softening it up before like expulging it.
Expulging. Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah,
we'll go with it. Yeah, so there's that. So like it felt so similar. It felt like I was in like an Indian like ceremony, which I've never been to, but I've just seen, you know, even here. But the process just like felt so similar. And like smoke is used. And I know in your ceremonies you have like somebody walking around with those like things. I don't know what you burn. Is it tobacco?
It's called copal. It's called copal. Okay. It's a tree resin dried and finely ground, put on the coals, and it creates this intense smoke, which smells pretty pleasantly. It's like, you know, it's not, I think this conversation shouldn't be about even finding parallels. I think it will be harder for us to find things that are not parallel. Like there seems to be everything is done in that tradition in India seems to be mirrored here. And this really makes you ask a lot of questions, right?
Pretty amazing.
Let's talk about another one. I know, for example, in preparation for ayahuasca, the diet is very important, and you need to eat in a special way or not eat in a special way. Are there any parallels like that in Eastern spirituality?
Yeah, so diet has a super important role. We are what we eat, so that one's pretty obvious. But like we often say that diet is supposed to be appropriate for the kind of work that you're doing. So say you were a king or whatever, and you had to do grand big things, you should eat sort of a rich, high caloric kind of diet, and it's named the Rajasic diet, right? It's got a lot of like key oils, rich foods, and it gives you a certain energy to do that kind of work, right? The warrior, for example, should eat accordingly, and all of that's written down. But spiritual work, they say, needs to be a sattvic diet, which is food that's largely plant-based, vegetarian, super easy to digest, such that it goes through your system and you don't even feel the effects or the big strain of digestion, so that you can put your energies into the spiritual work. So the idea of yoga and like all this diet stuff is like your body should not even be contributing. So again with ayahuasca, like you release all of that stuff, right? Like the idea is to release all of it such that you don't even experience the body, and then you quieten the mind, and then you open yourself up to what the universe is for real, for the whatever the universal truth is. So exactly. So there's that, and obviously each of the foods are attributed qualities and what they do to the system. So there's like foods with which are called kind of high pranic foods, meaning they help the prana. So the prana is like the life force energy. So these are like foods that are positively pranic, and these are like the negative, and these are the neutral. And so if you eat accordingly, you'll find that you need less because you're gaining energy just by, say, working on your kundalini, and that's energy, right? So you don't require as much food when you're working on this stuff, and also whatever food you do eat for sustenance is positive, kind of helping the prana. So
Well,
that's sort of what yeah.
I work with spirituality, but I still prefer to eat my warrior's diet. So
You're creating a business, so I think
in no way, yeah, I'm still fighting a lot of small wars to just make it all happen. So, but I'm sure, yeah, Taita doesn't seem to eat much at all. Like he's very flexible with his diets, but he doesn't eat much at all. And when you asked him about, for example, vegetarianism, or just about what foods are they allowed to eat or not allowed to eat, they do eat meat in their tradition, but it has to be a very specific type of meat. Like they really highlight the importance that before you eat the animal, the animal has to live its full life cycle. So it has to be obviously you would call it organic, happy chicken, and then it has to have had, kids. And that's interesting. I don't know if there is any parallels in Eastern tradition to that sort of notion.
For meats, yeah, I'm sure there. So the meats are not forbidden. I'm like, I've been vegetarian since I was like born, so I have like very little understanding of the other stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, any indigenous tradition will say that the you need to be part of the ecosystem and part of the natural life cycle of the food, right? And so it needs to have finished its life in order for you to then consume it. But yeah, I haven't like really delved into the meat consumption part. But certainly meats aren't, and certain Ayurvedic doctors recommend meat for certain things. So I imagine they have certain properties that will help cure ailments or like otherwise to kind of, yeah.
Let's talk about another parallel, which is the use of music in the ceremony and in the healing. And to me, two things sort of seem somewhat similar, which is Ikaros, like chants, and the mantras. Do you have any opinion on that? Have you noticed that one?
Yes. So when I was there, the there were a couple of things. There's the Icaros, the medicine music part, which was beautiful, by the way. Thank you so much. And then, of course, what sort of the sounds that Taita makes when he's doing the healing work, right? And they're not words per se. I don't think they are anyway. You can enlighten me if they are, but like they sound. But if they were put into words, they would sound like little chants. That like, so I think with music and sound, it's very much not the words, but the energy that the sound is carrying. And so, yeah, like to me, it sounded super similar. But yeah, mantras, like they're supposed to encapsulate the energies of like the primordial sound of the universe kind of thing. So they're supposed to capture it in certain ways, and each mantra is supposed to invoke a certain energy within you, and you find resonance with that particular sound. So I remember, like, I think day one, I think you must have asked Caesar to play a particular mantra. And because I knew it and I resonated with it, it kind of blew up my kind of visual side, like experience. And so I think we're all instruments, right? Being tuned by music and sound. And I think that's a huge part of both our kind of traditions, like chanting, will tune our instrument in a certain way, in the same way Icarus or the other music and sound will tune our. So I found that with having taken ayahuasca, the certain whenever music started playing, it would cause a physiological change in the body. Like you would feel sick afterwards, or like it would do something. They would cause a shift as soon as the music started. It wasn't always consistent. I like was yeah. I don't know what experience like you've had with several people noting this, but like it's very pronounced what music does in those ceremonies.
Absolutely, we know that, and even in when I'm instructing, for example, Caesar what to play, I always, Caesar, he's a little bit difficult. I always tell him, like, when people are very quiet and they're not purging, you need to increase the intensity and play songs that are like really powerful, and they will create this chaos, and then the purge. And then when people
The
are
swirling starts with it,
exactly.
like it kind of stimulates it, and that's really
And
interesting.
when everyone is like super quiet and sort of like falling asleep as well, you need stronger. But then when it's a chaos and everyone is like releasing and there's a lot of noise, then you quiet down and you sort of quiet people down with the music. Like for example, me, when I play in the ceremony, it's also not just the music itself. It's kind of like an intention. I sort of envision myself singing, and I mostly sing with my eyes closed for some reason. Not only medicine music, it's a thing. And then I envision sort of putting like a warm blanket around everyone, sort of like
Oh,
sending good vibes. And people seem to feel it, like they feel the difference and they notice it. So, and if you ask Taita, like, what is the music all about? What is why harmonica? Why this? He will
yes, I'm very
like that.
curious about that. Yeah.
Titans normally say that they use sounds to harmonize the space.
Okay.
So let's say there's somebody goes through a difficult process and there's like a little bit of chaos. If you allow it to be, and Taita doesn't come and help, then you see there's another person with chaos and another person with chaos, and then Taita comes out and starts, with harmonica and with Waira, he starts to like, and then or sometimes just with chants, it's like, hey, 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 and then people start to like calm down, calm down, calm down, and it's sort of like there's a little fire and he like extinguishes it, and otherwise it spreads and it's chaos, right? So they use music to harmonize, and yeah, it's very
Wow.
interesting. Music is, it's kind of another universal language that I'm sure if you take an Indian shaman that works in some specific tradition and then put him in an ayahuasca ceremony and let him do his
You're
chants,
right at
he will
home.
connect. He will
Yeah.
connect with everyone, and vice versa, right? It's too bad you lost your soma, because otherwise I'll be doing soma retreat.
Yeah, no, we can go to the Himalayas and try and find it again. It's supposed to be in that region. So from Afghanistan to like the Himalayas, that's supposed to be where it like it's roughly located. And obviously that's like beyond India now. So
Well,
no
as
one's
soon as
really
we're done, with this live, I'm sure you're gonna come out and start looking for it, right?
and start hunting for Soma. It's
Yeah.
okay, I'll just come back to you. Sounds cool. It's the same
So
thing, remember? It's the same thing.
yeah, I wanted to talk to you about something personal, right? You're a
Mhm.
doctor, and you came to our retreat. You work as a doctor in London, right? And there's this thing about doctors and policemen, and like this time we had a fire chief from London as well, and they all seem to be very sort of worried about sharing about their ayahuasca experience on like social media, and it's there seems to be this taboo for people of those professions to have emotions and have emotional issues. Do you have any opinion on that?
Um, it's not that we're not allowed to have them, we're just not allowed to express them. So first of all, the UK, and I'm sure American similar, but it's not quite. The UK is well known for its stiff upper lip, right? You kind of just like take it and that's it, and like you just have to deal with it yourself. You're never going to share it with anybody else. It's like a very British thing to do. But yes, people in these professions see a lot, They experience a lot of trauma. We see people dying in front of us. We need to be able to cope with that. Yet we are given hardly any tools to do that. Whether it's you've tried to save somebody and you haven't been able to, it might be a little debrief session with your seniors as to like what went wrong. It's very technical. It won't really be about your emotions and what you took in, and it's like a human life that you've just dealt with. And so I'm guessing it's very similar with firefighters, policemen, etc. We hold a lot of traumas, but we're for some reason not given the tools, and we don't have the tools. Does anyone really in the West have tools to try and figure out how to express and release trauma? It's slowly getting it. Yeah. So we just numb it. We decide to just like become functional again with these antidepressants. So if we're feeling low, great, let's just take like antidepressants, just take uppers. If we're feeling like a bit manic, let's just take some benzos and get to sleep at night. These aren't permanent solutions. They might help, like, they might put like a little plaster over your problem for like a short period of time, but it wouldn't really get to the root cause of why you are this way. And obviously people who go into these, yeah, absolutely. And like people who go into these professions clearly have some sort of, thing to work out, right? Like we need to figure out why we want to help people. We want to figure out like, why are you drawn to like these particular professions? What is it about them? Is it about proving it to somebody that you can do it? Is it about like, you saw so much chaos in your life before that, you can deal with chaos and you've got a skill now because of what you've gone through, but like, it still hasn't like released out of you. So it's those questions that I think we all need to kind of ask, and I don't think we often do. But yeah.
Do you mind talking on a subject of you being a doctor? Do you mind if I share the story about Taita and tobacco and what he saw?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's very fascinating. So about a month ago, right, you messaged me and said you felt strange and like a little bit energetically blocked, and you asked like if I can ask Taita for any advice. So I spoke to Taita, and Taita normally says, okay, if you want me to look into some person, I need a photo and I need their full name. So he sits down, lights the tobacco, he looks at your photo and your full name. I don't know how he does. It's kind of like, I guess, a version of spiritual Googling. And then he smokes the tobacco and he looks at the way the tobacco burns and starts to get some kind of hints and information from it. And what really surprised me, he asked me like, oh, is she a healer? And I thought like, oh, I'm gonna ask you if you do some kind of healing work. And then it struck me that you're a doctor, which is a healer, right? And then when I said you're a doctor, he smiled and because obviously he was correct. Somehow through that tobacco he was able to see that. And then he said that when you do your healing work as a doctor, in that sort of physical realm, you also do part of it spiritually, and you keep some of the things people are some of their energies, and people are, it stays in you, and that's what causes that disbalance. So I don't know how cool is that, right?
Very, very cool. Like, I mean, and it just validates what I've always known about myself, which is really interesting. So I do that, I mean, with my work, of course, but even with just normal life and people and relationships and friends and whatever. It's like I am the one that's sitting there holding people's pain, like trying to trying to see if I can find a solution for them. Healing is, I have no formal training in healing. I do doctor work, like it's very Western medicine, but like yeah, so I know that I take on people's energies. This is something I know about myself. And so like it was interesting that he corroborated that. And very interestingly, after or before you told me this, I'd actually watched a Gabor Mate interview with Tim Ferriss. He's promoting his new book at the moment, and like he speaks about how he himself was, so he does like integration work, I think, with like his own retreats and stuff. So he went to a retreat and took a bunch of physicians, actually took a bunch of doctors with him. And they were all doing their healing work. After the first night, he was chucked out of his own retreat. The shamans came up to him and were like, "You're messing up people's energies. Like, what's going on with you?" He's like, "Oh, what is it?" And they basically highlighted two things. One was, you basically have done so much healing work on other people, but you don't know how to discharge it. And so you're holding a bunch of that within you, and years of it. And so like, that's not helping. And the other thing was, you're still holding on to some sort of like childhood trauma that happened to you very early in life, where you were abandoned or something of that kind. And he always has a story about that you can go and look up and stuff. But he, being a Holocaust survivor, and like his mom had to abandon him for a period of time and things like that. And so that is, and they just saw that, and like, so I think we have that problem. I think doctors, healers, the shamans know how to discharge their like emotions, and we probably don't have the tools to that. And like, this is where like the Eastern stuff, like yoga and like somatically with body work, discharge it every day, you know, like with meditation, try and work and like discharge that. Like, you need to be fine-tuned to what you hold and how you're holding it. And I think that's the tricky part for us. But yeah, it's super interesting.
Way of discharging it, and then maybe help the other people in your types of profession to learn how to do it. Speaking about some, sorry.
Yeah. I said that's the work. That's the challenge. Yeah.
That's the plan, right? Speaking about other things that would be considered unexplainable and a little bit woo-woo, I remember we talked about Reiki, right?
Yes.
And the healing. So me myself, for people who don't know, I did tell this story in a couple times, is that my whole journey about starting the ayahuasca retreat started with the medicine experience in the Amazon jungle, where medicine gave me the gift of healing with my hands, which is not easy for me to talk about because it's totally outside of my worldview, and I'm still sort of now stuck in between those two worldviews of and I'm trying to find my peace, and create my own worldview, which sort of includes both physical and
because you were an engineer, right? Or
yeah.
are, or yeah.
I was
so that's
I was a marine mechanical engineer.
Like material worldview, right? Everything is matter. You have to construct it in certain
everything
ways.
very much so about physical, and like Latvia used to be part of Soviet Union, and you know, religion was prohibited, so we grew up with zero religion, like zero spiritual. Everything was you know, just about this world, and obviously now I understand this is not a healthy way of being. But so for me, the whole journey of starting a retreat began with that experience of being given this information about healing with my hands, which I'm still learning, and occasionally get like a learning sessions from ayahuasca about how to do it. But when I was describing this to one of the visitors here, happened to me, and this is what I've been shown, and it's largely about moving energies. So it's either taking something from a person and removing it, or taking something from outside of the person and putting it in specific parts of the body. And when I was describing exactly how it happens, he's like, yeah, but that's Reiki. That's like, he's a Reiki practitioner. It's like, that's what they teach us at the Reiki course. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool, because I don't know what even Reiki is. And then I remember talking about that to you, and you say that you know something about it, right? And is Reiki an Eastern tradition?
I think so. Again, I don't quite know where the roots are, but it is energy work. It is basically working with energy, same as what Tantra is, in the sense that you work with your hands, and you're able to, I think it's a lot to do with like where you're directing your attention. So wherever your like attention is, that's where the energy flows. So like, that's why you have, say, Vipassana, where you're like scanning your body and you're like focusing your energy in those specific, your attention in those specific spots and working out the energy kinks in those areas. And very similarly, you're supposed to direct like your whole body's energy, or your heart energy, for example. You can imagine that your heart is sitting in your arm, in your hands, the palm of your hands. And if you want to do some kind of loving kindness kind of healing for somebody, that's what you want to do, and you want to work with your chakras and their chakras and interact with them. Apparently chakras don't just sit stable in those like places. You can actually move some of them around, like where direct them as to where your attention is. So I think I don't know much about it, but like this is sort of like there's a lot of like self-proclaimed Reiki masters around here. One of my uncles is supposed to be one. So that's the sort of thing he describes, and like you can actually feel energy. So Tai Chi, for example, is energy manipulation as well, right? And you're supposed to be able to feel like this ball of energy in your hands and between them. And actually, if you really hone down, you can feel the heat and the energy in between your hands. It's really quite, I don't know if you've had that experience, like if you're dealing with somebody's pain, for example, and you like focus your energy there, they'll start feeling a little bit of heat or something in that space. Something's happening. Medicine, science, I don't know if they can explain it. Like,
I mostly focus on the flow of the energy. That's what I feel. It's kind of like, you become a pump. That's how it feels.
Where is it coming from? Like, is there a source that you're like channeling it from into, or?
So, for example, one of the examples when I had to do healing work, because it's not that I decide like, oh, I'm going to go help this person. If I drink during the ceremony, sometimes the medicine tells me, oh, you need to go help that person, and that's what you need to do. And in that case, she had certain disease, which I saw as a lack of the life energy. And so I was sort of listening and sort of focusing on the nature outside of the retreat, and like sound of the river flowing and the trees and the plants, and I was sort of pulling that life energy from the nature, and I was putting that in like a specific part of the body till I could see that that organ. I could see that you went from being like a sort of waste, like a desert, sort of empty space, to starting to fill up with green, and then I could see a flower sort of blooming, and then that to me was a realization that the work has been done. So I was like happy and like, that's good. And
wow.
I don't know.
You saw that, like visually, you saw that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
With your eyes open, or like with your eyes shut?
No, with my eyes shut, and obviously when drinking
with ayahuasca. Yeah.
And I don't know, I talked to her a couple of months after that. I actually need to check up on her as well, if she's feeling better. But she was very, very skinny, and she said after the retreat she gained like 3 kilos in 3 months. So I guess that's a sign.
Do the same for me. What is this? You should come and help me.
Well, honestly, at the moment I'm still learning, and I don't say I'm a healer or anything. I'm just basically a low-level student. And I only do things when medicine tells me. The instructions are very clear. If you're at the retreat and I'm like, oh, I need to go do something, then I will. But it's a really rare thing. It happens to me once every 6 months.
Yeah.
And last time I did it, it was basically me putting a hand on the part that hurts and then sort of focusing on it. And it's a lot to do with like colors and shapes, the way I see the pain, and then I need to like remove it, and then in place of pain put in once again the energy of some kind of life, one of the 4 elements, it seems to be. And it also has a lot to do with chakras, and like kind of it's as if I'm trying to like when you use the defibrillators to like start somebody's heart, it's kind of similar, but I'm trying to like sort of
instead of electricity, it's like energy,
just like a rank up their energy. Yeah, it's like, but it doesn't come from me. None of it comes from me. Basically what
you're like a channel, right? Like
as a channel, like as a pump. I just get instructions and I say pump this from here to there, and it's very So
So you're told like specifically like, oh, for this element is needed, like fire
yeah,
or water or whatever. Like
yeah. So and if you ask Taita, he will say the same thing. He will always say, I'm doing none of it. It's basically I'm just conveying something, and I think that's a very healthy way of seeing it, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of huge spiritual ego, and then they want you to kiss their feet or something like that. But which is, yeah, I don't know much about it, but
you can't be a
a
channel
lot
with
of
that kind of
questions, very few answers.
yeah, yeah. No, the elements thing is super interesting because obviously with ailments, like with Ayurveda, what I'm studying as well is like often a lack of a certain combination of elements. So like each food is considered to have either fire and water, like it's composed of like, I mean, it's five elements or whatever. It might be different for you, but like they're supposed to, each food item is supposed to be composed of different combinations of these five, and then your body is supposed to be composed of different combinations of these five, and each process is slightly different in what it uses. For example, digestion is a digestive fire, right? And so yeah, like the fact that you're saying like certain elements were missing in somebody and you've tried to like pull that energy and put it in them, that's super interesting too, because that's what we try and do with food and herb treatments in Ayurveda, so that's cool.
Yeah, and it's very clear, right? Let's say I'm doing that. I have like one hand on the part that hurts, and the other hand sort of like collecting energies, like with my fingers spread and sort of like antennas, right? And then if I go like, oh, I go like, oh, I need something from the ground, and I go my hand, and then it's like, oh, I need something from up. Oh, it's really strange because like I don't know anything about it. Once again, I don't know about
See, this is what's fascinating
fire
about
diet.
us,
So that's
because
another parallel in, I guess, in
yeah,
methods of healing.
I mean, the parallel between you and I is the fact that like we come from such mechanistic ways of looking at the world, and then for some reason all of this, like, we're not saying we know anything about it, but it's super interesting and it's challenging our worldview that we held for the longest time, right? Like I came in a skeptic. I don't like I'd heard about ayahuasca, but I hadn't like really, it's a different thing experiencing it for sure. Like you go back a believer.
I'm still a skeptic though, right? And that's the weirdest part. I'm like, I
You
do a
have to be a
healing, I do a
yeah.
healing on someone, and it works, and I still like, no, you're full of shit.
How?
Like,
But how? But
yeah,
like, why?
yeah,
Why is
you're
it
full of shit.
working?
This is garbage. Like, you're just crazy. And then I'm like, but then when I'm in that state, I believe it 100%. And for me, like, it's a big conflict right now. I need to sort of find where I sit, because I still, let's be honest, there, in the world of spirituality and this healing, 99% of things is bullshit. Like, there's so many people trying to claim something and make something money out of something, and
Yeah.
that's why it's so watered down, and that's why it's so hard to believe, because it's really hard to find something that really works. But if you look at Taita's work and all these unexplainable things, you really realize, like, when somebody is real, it is real. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, the retreat that just ended 2 days ago, the guy was like, he was at his darkest throughout the whole retreat, and he was just basically under the blanket going through the hardest trip ever. And he says exactly at that moment, Taita just runs up to him, takes the blanket off him, and starts helping him. And he's like, how the hell did he know that I was in that space? And it happens every retreat. There's one person that's like, exactly where when I needed him, he came, because otherwise he doesn't bother you. You'll rarely see him. He'll be there in a kiosk meditating and sort of seeing things. So it is real, but it's still really hard for me to accept.
So hard to accept. It's really, really difficult. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's been drummed into us, like for our entire lifetime.
But like you go into that space, whatever that world, and it's very real when it happens. Like it's very like you feel a presence of somebody else there with you in your mind, and that's like, and you can, there's ways of looking at hallucinogens and like psychedelics and what they do to you, right? Like we were talking about the default mode network and the mechanism of that, and like So that's like the egotist mind chatter that you have about yourself. So what psychedelics supposed to do is like quieten that part of your brain, so you become an antenna for the rest of the universe, and so like you start like becoming more receptive to what else is going on. That's supposedly how it works, but that's so mechanistic. Like that feels very simplistic and reductionist. Whereas with ayahuasca, there's a presence that's doing that to you and with you and like taking you like on this journey, and like everyone's having the same kind of experience. So they can't all be lying and making shit up, right? Like there is something here that's like slightly different. There is a spirit of a plant of some sort. Now, what does that mean to like put it into the wider world context? Like, oh, plants have spirits. Oh, okay. They're not inert things that like, you know, you're supposed to ravage, and you know, they have intelligence, they have wisdom in the same way that we do. We just are not tuned to it. So clearly we need to readjust the way we're functioning in this world to like, you know, recalibrate a bit and like open our minds to other possibilities.
Yeah, find a worldview that includes all of those things and there is no conflict. It's kind of like a conflict between, Newtonian physics and quantum physics. It's like they're
Yeah,
both real, but they don't. And I think
they're
that's very
conflicting.
similar.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is no
that's
no
very similar.
theory that matches
There
the
is this
two.
world, there is a spiritual reality,
Yeah.
and there is probably something in between. And but for me personally, it really
Messes with our minds, right?
messes with my mind. And as all of you who are watching this probably can see, we have a lot of questions, very few answers, but it's important to ask those questions to start thinking those thoughts. And we should do another episode 10 years from now, and maybe we'll have more answers.
See where we're at. Have we gained any
Yeah,
more understanding of this?
see if we
So
figured
vast.
it out, and maybe by then we'll be doing lives in totally in spiritual world without any
Oh yeah. Oh, that would be good.
just like, tune in on such time, meditate.
Telepathic
Like,
channel 331.
telepathic, which is another bizarre thing because Titus do communicate remotely with each other.
What?
Yep,
Wow.
yep. And once again, using a tobacco, they can. Yeah, so many questions, so little answers. But I think on that note, we'll wrap up. And another thing, when you do come to the retreat, please don't come seeking me out and asking to heal you from something, because I don't know how to do it
Oops.
unless the medicine
Yeah.
specifically tells me to do it. So yeah, give me another maybe 40 years when I'm Titus age, and I can control it and do it on demand. But as of now, yeah, I'm just learning, and it's fascinating, this whole world that no matter how bizarre this world of spirituality is, but it makes me feel very much liberated, because there's so much more to explore and so much more to learn, because it feels like I remember growing up, I really liked adventure books, and I would read books, and I read the entire in the library that we had in our neighborhood. I read all adventure books, and I just realized that there's nothing left to explore. Like you can't just go jump on a
Humans
ship
have
and
done it all.
find the new continents. Somebody's done it all, and I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna explore? This is so boring. This is sucks. And then now discovering the psychedelic, I realized that this world you go to, and these worlds and paradigms and parallel universes you go to on psychedelics might be much bigger than this reality, which for me personally is really exciting, because there's so much more to explore and understand. Like there's nothing we understand about it. So yeah, I'm really excited.
It is a journey, not a destination. You have to keep exploring.
Kani, thank you for coming, and thank you for teaching us a little bit about Eastern tradition. And I really hope you find a way, to help all those doctors to, heal themselves and clean themselves. I really, I really think you have a passion for that, and maybe next time you're on it, you'll be you're on our podcast. Maybe you'll be, you'll write a book or something. It's time to act.
It's time to act. I'm trying to find my path. Let's see where it leads me. But yeah, book might be in the works. Let's see.
Yeah, book a course, something that people can find and learn. Meanwhile, you said you do have a blog, right? Would you want
Oh
to
my
share?
God, yeah. Yeah, sure. I'll put it you can put it in the description later.
I will
Don't
do
remember.
that. And yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for coming. And it's
Oh, thank you for having
it's a
me.
fascinating subject.
It was a fun discussion. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Kani, and I'll see you in 10 years in another one
Not
of these.
before then? What?
No, I mean I'll see you at the retreat, hopefully sometime next year. But I mean 10 years from now, we'll do another episode where we'll provide the
podcast.
answers for all the questions that we asked in this one.
Absolutely.
Bye, bye everyone.
Trai nai nai con la vida, vida de la baila, cura con la guaira, limpia limpia taita, vibrando con